I didn't hear the theme song. Well, welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. I'll have to see if I can get my headphones on so I can hear what's going on. Is there anything else I want to know about that?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday.
Well, that's good.
Listen to this. Pay attention.
Now, do you want to introduce the guest, or do you want me to?
No, this is a happy birthday to you.
Oh, no.
I didn't hear it, but I know it played because I got the nod from Mr. Rash.
Oh.
So you're amongst royalty here today. Tomorrow is this young lady's birthday.
Yeah.
And
so just tomorrow is 79, so the good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. My next birthday will be the big one.
Big celebration then.
Yeah. Well, if I'm still here, I'll help you light the candle. Aaron, we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two, perhaps, in the community on Sunday, July 29th. That's this Sunday. 2 p.m. The Habitat for Humanity folks are going to have a little groundbreaking for a new domicile there. It's going to be at 317 6th Street, and that is a public groundbreaking. We'd like to have some people there. The Habitat people just do a whale of a lot in this community, just tons.
They're kind of like the honor flight people. They're so dedicated.
I'm glad you worked that in.
Yeah.
You are smarter than the average bear.
No.
And with that in mind, why don't we just introduce our guest?
Well, this is going to be a very nice program, so listen up.
We got a very nice man here with us
yes.
this morning.
Aaron Liesman has been involved with the honor flight for some time. And they have a small group. In fact, I didn't realize it was that small, Aaron. And
volunteers are volunteers. Sometimes they're hard to come by. And
yes.
So there's probably, 25 or 30 at least.
But this is
and there could be more.
But
they're dedicated.
They are dedicated. Yes, they are
dedicated.
Your actual board is like 7.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty small outfit.
Yeah.
And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, half a dozen trips where you take veterans out to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials that are out there. And Bill goes down for most of the landings, don't you?
I'm awful sick if I'm not there.
Yeah, at Capitol Airport. And the veteran himself or herself doesn't pay a nickel. They aren't allowed to bring their wallet with them.
As long as honor flight's been around, the veterans have never paid for a flight.
You can't buy a piece of candy there.
Now, what?
That's exactly true, Bill. My son Adam's in charge of candy, and there's always plenty of that.
What number do you usually have on a given flight?
Well, usually there's somewhere between 80 and 85 veterans, and then there's probably 80 of the rest of the team,
yes.
All right? All the people that are going to be the honor flight folk, and then the guardians for the veterans. There's at least a guardian for every veteran has a guardian. Sometimes a guardian will have 2 veterans. Most of the time, there's enough spots anymore that we don't have any more than that. I had one trip where I had 3, but that's then we're starting to, it gets to be like herding cats, because you might have one of them that I got to push a wheelchair for, and then the other one's pretty mobile and he's off running around someplace.
Well, you know what I'd like to do before we get in depth in this discussion. Yes. I really had in mind that this is about volunteerism. We just mentioned the Habitat, volunteers, honor flight, the country over, volunteers, and it's the old saying, it's the difference that makes a difference. And I want to go back to the beginning of this and emphasize the importance of the difference that makes a difference as to how the honor flight began. And in 2005, there was a gentleman over in Springfield, Ohio, that was a physician's assistant. I guess that would be the same as nurse practitioner. I don't know. Anyway, he was just under the heading of doctor, and Captain Earl Morris. And he had a veteran patient he was seeing, and we had just completed the WW2 memorial out there, which I call the Bob Dole Memorial, since he was kind of the driving force on that. And he said to this veteran, "Well, George, are you going to get to see your new memorial?" In essence, I couldn't begin to do that. It's about affording it and so forth. And that got this Captain Morris to thinking about this. And he was a private pilot and was a member of a group, of kind of an ad hoc group that had a little flying club. And before it was all said and done, they had 6 planes, took 12 veterans on May the 5th in 2005. Now that started a nationwide movement, that very, very small beginning, a nationwide movement of groups taking veterans out to Washington, D.C. to see all of the memorials. And I emphasize, and I tell that story almost ad nausea, because I repeat it so often. But I repeat it because it indicates how one individual can have an impact in volunteerism. And so here we are, sitting here this morning, Wednesday morning, up here on Lazy Row, and we have a gentleman who was born just down the road here in Lazy Row, and he and his dear wife Joyce and their son Adam are an integral part of the Land of Lincoln Honor Flight organization. Joyce and Aaron go down there every time. We have 6 flights this year. They go down there every time. They take little flags down there and catch people at the entrances and sell these little flags, and the proceeds go to the honor flight. You and Joyce buy those flags? That's just exactly what I thought.
Well, and we don't sell flags, Bill. We give them away.
You give them away for a donation.
When we have a bucket for donations.
Thank you for straightening me out on that. Okay, they buy these flags on their own. They take them down there, and they stand there on their knees. And Joyce gets down and pleads with his big, pretty eyes, and these guys just drop hundreds of dollars in there for them.
She's a really good salesperson.
Yeah, right. But I don't make light of this. It's an integral part because all of this money comes from volunteers and fundraisers. And then their son Adam has been vitally involved in this, and at this point in state, he's now leading the flights out there as they go out there. So I'm going to just drop the ball in your court now, Aaron, and so you go ahead and tell us. I wanted to emphasize this because of the volunteerism that takes place.
Well, that's true. I mean, they just got done celebrating their 50th flight.
That's amazing.
Here at Springfield Airport. I think that they have, by the end of the year, will have taken over 4,000 veterans from Central Illinois to D.C. Over all of Honor Flight, there are well over 100,000 veterans that they've taken.
Starting from one man.
Yeah, starting from Captain Morse. Is that, Yep.
Earl F. Morse.
Yep, Earl Morse.
Yeah.
It's quite the trip. I mean, it's you wouldn't think that 80 and 90-year-olds could have a 18-hour day, traveling. But they all make it.
Well, their little tails drag when they get home.
Yeah, I'm sure they are, because they're getting. We get them up at 4 a.m, and we're trying to get them on a plane and off by 6:30 in the morning, and then they go all day. And we hope that we get them back by 10 p.m. Here
That's
a month or two
sometimes.
ago, it was like 2 a.m. because we had a weather delay. Mm-hmm. But we get. Basically, we rent our own airplane, so we rent a jet. We have our own flight people, and so our plane doesn't get canceled, because it's ours.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring people home.
That's about $90,000, isn't it? The overall cost for a flight, somewhere around there. What
probably in the neighborhood, a little less than that, probably 65.
65. Okay, let's say 70. to raise it up, give a little cushion there. 50 flights times 70.
Yeah, we
that mounts
spent
up.
we spent a few dollars, and we get a lot of help. The airport. I think the airport at both ends, Washington and here, they donate some of the normal fees that are involved. Obviously, we have all the volunteers. We get help with lunches, because we have plenty of water and food and snacks and whatever the veterans might need. If it's raining, we've got rain gear for them. We try and take care of everything.
I tell you a quick story about this the volunteers business. I mean the Guardians. I was so enthused. I've told this story before. So enthused when I came back that I volunteered to be a Guardian, and they broke my heart. They told me I was too old. Now the truth of the matter is, essentially they were right, because a Guardian has to be able to get wheelchairs out of those buses and set them up, and for those who need wheelchairs, they have to push them around all day long. They were right. I was too old for that. But now the Guardians pay for themselves, or somebody pays for their way, which is what, $4.50 or
$4.75.
Yeah, $4.75
right, for the Guardian,
and that's gone up some, and that's fine. It's still. It's just one of the experiences of my lifetime.
Mine too.
And you, as I said to Judith coming up there, almost inevitably on the way on their reception home, which can be somewhere from 10 o'clock to 11:30, you'll see some old gentlemen break down a little bit, and tears be down their eyes, and it's a moving experience to be there.
Well, a lot of them, they go for the day, and they really hadn't thought too much about what was going to happen when they got back. They just figured somebody would pick them up and they'd go home.
Yeah, right.
But they have what they call mail call, okay, that all the veterans know what mail call is, and they'll have that on the plane. And every veteran will get a bundle of mail, hopefully from his family, because they let the family know that that's going to happen. And so the family, all of his grandchildren and whomever, they can write letters to their veteran.
School children who don't know the veterans, right? And those go in those
And then
bags.
we got all the school kids all over. They come from everywhere. That again, these honor flight volunteers take care of getting all that sorted and getting a sack for each one with that mail. And the airplane ride on the way home can be kind of quiet because everybody's
number one, they're dead.
Pensive.
Number one,
They're tired.
We're really dead tired, and then it's kind of a reflective time. And then when you get mail call and these guys sit there and you see it, it's a moving experience on that airplane to see these fellas read that mail call. It's a moving experience. And I sat there and tears came down my cheeks too when I read part of my mail that I got. So it's an event that is a lasting impression on, it should be on the families of veterans as well as the veterans themselves.
Well, and I know the team, okay, my son Adam being one of them, he's one of the bus captains. There'll be 3 buses of people when we get to DC, and he's always one of the bus captains. I know that one of his biggest thrills is just listening to the stories that he'll try and get involved in, sitting by a different veteran, almost going from one memorial to the other just to see if there's another story that he can pick up.
The one of all those memorials out there, and each and every one are so significant in their own right. And I'm sure you hear this quite a bit, Aaron. The one memorial that kind of stops us in our tracks as we walk around the corner, and there's a Korean memorial. And that's so ethereal. It shows these guys, they're all done up. They're out on a mission. They got their ponchos on. It's raining, and it's good. You can just visualize the whole thing. And I just stopped dead in my tracks. I said, oh, my.
Those guys watch you, don't they, Bill? Mm-hmm. You can see their eyes.
Yeah,
that's the way it was with me. You think their eyes are moving.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, but have you had any? You and Joyce have been doing this how many years now, Aaron?
Well,
W.
we probably didn't do it the first.
Couple of years.
No. Well, as long as Adam's been doing it, we went. Maybe didn't go the first one, but Adam said, "You need to come to this. This is really neat."
Yeah.
Coming home.
Yeah.
And we went to the second. So the first one we went to, and Joyce come home. She says, "Well, they didn't have enough flags there. We gotta
She took
change
care of that. Yeah.
So then she got to thinking a little more, and she thought, "Well, we should just stand there and see if we can get donations." So that's where it started. So we've probably been doing this for, I don't know how long we've been doing this. 2009, Lincoln Land Honor Flight started.
Volunteerism.
Yeah, I would
Volunteerism.
guess that some late in 2009 we were doing this. So they probably still keep track of how much money but pretty much we get enough money to take at least one veteran on a flight every night, every welcome home.
At those two tables where they
That's
have
right.
flight. Now, isn't that
At our
something?
two spots,
Yeah.
we'll get donations that are almost $500.
Now, speaking of
Every
donations, this Saturday down in Chatham, they're going to have a hog roast, and the proceeds are going to go to the honor flight, and old Bill's going to go down there. I can eat at home, but it'd be a nice trip. Would you like to go down there? We talked about that on the way home. I missed it only because when I came home, I got so enthused with what they were doing, and I went out to dollar stores and I got some Tupperware containers and so forth, cut holes in the tops of the lids and put a little flag and a little typed up a little message, and went to the fast food establishment around town, and they were all very kind and generous to let me put up and that happened for a little over a year, and they finally asked me to take them down, which I was very appreciative of the fact that we had them up that long. And in that year's time, we garnered in nickels, dimes, and quarters, and once in a while a $5 or $10 bill, over about $2,500. Just a nickel, dime coming across the counters of these fast food places. I kind of felt pretty good about that.
You bet. You bet.
I was able to send some veterans.
There's just groups all over that do that.
That happens all the time. Yes. Now, tell us a little bit about how the Honor Flight organization has expanded nationwide, Aaron, because that's kind of an interesting thing. I think every state. I'll let you go ahead and take it from there.
Well, to tell you the truth, you may know more about that than myself. I know that the local groups, what we do, and there are groups, I believe, maybe there's one in Peoria. The one that's up by Chicago is a huge group, and they're up in the big city where the big money is.
Big money,
and so I think they actually have an overnight trip for their group because they got enough money to put them in hotels and.
Well, it's just a lot easier on those old folks,
But there are hundreds around the country.
My brother's gotten involved. He just moved into a rather nice retirement area, a place down in Surprise, Arizona, strictly for old gaffers and their young wives. And he's gotten involved with the honor flight down there because he's an Air Corps veteran, the Air Force in his days, and they are able to send flight now because it's so far away. It's an automatic overnight there. They go out one day and do the memorials the next day, and then the third day they come back home. And if those folks who have a good distance to fly, it becomes a 3-day trip. But it's amazing how that says, I think the only states that don't have it are the two that are non-contiguous. I mean, that would be Hawaii and Alaska. But if you think about this, that all these states and all these airports all over the country, small airports, big airports, they have a chapter up around Moline in the Quad Cities area. We have one down around St. Louis. Am I correct in that, Aaron? I think so. So it's just exponentially it's grown.
Well, and you think about how many of those guys, how many hundreds of them are coming into Washington, and there's always someone there to greet them as well. I mean, the people in the airport, I think they're probably used to it at this point. They just stop when honor flight groups come in.
I was stunned when we went into the airport and went through the terminal there at Washington. As we got there, to see the reception. People lined up all over Heckenbach, and a lot of people in uniform. And the politicians show up around the memorial. And a quick story about that, I was talking to Senator Chuck Grassley, and suddenly he found out I was not one of his constituents.
And he was gone.
He dropped me like the proverbial hot potato because I was no good to him.
Dear.
I think we better take time for a commercial, Mr. Ash, when your fingers will allow you to do the numbers.
Oh, dear.
Our guest this morning at Viewpoint is Mr. Aaron Liesman. Aaron and his family, his wife Joyce and their son Adam, are vitally involved in the program known as the Honor Flight. We've been talking about what the Honor Flight means to men who have served their country in uniform. And it started 2005, and here we are 13 years later. And it's just grown so much that it's a huge... I don't know if they can handle all the traffic if all those airplanes came in from at one time out there at Washington D.C. because you have daily several flights a day coming in. It's just remarkable how that has expanded. And the purpose of our having Aaron is not only to blow some good smoke for the Honor Flight and maybe cause somebody to think about remembering them with a donation or two, or a large one. I wanted to specify and emphasize the volunteerism that takes place. And Aaron and Joyce and their son Adam are very typical of thousands of people now who've gotten so involved. And we've got this next Honor Fight coming up August the 21th?
21, yeah.
Yes. Something I'd like to urge you to do is go down there and be a participant in the welcome home of all these veterans. It's an experience you'll be glad you had. There's a kind of a hardcore group of us that just keep showing up for all of them. And not only veterans but families and people have kind of gotten involved in that. And I see the same people down there time after time. And they just can't become enmeshed in this. And the welcoming home ceremony is something that you have to experience. You can't describe it. I will just give you a little tip. Number one, it takes long after the plane lands. It takes quite a while to get things organized. And mind you that these folks are all pretty old and they're pretty doggone tired. We're down now to the fact that there are very few of us WW2 guys at Korean, and happily we're honoring the Vietnam veterans, which is a wonderful thing. But they'll start the process of coming down with a bagpiper, lead them down through the corridors, and by then the place is packed, and the parade starts. And some are ambulatory, and some need wheelchairs. And it's an experience to welcome them home, and by golly, I know they appreciate it. Tell us, Aaron, the plans to meet. Well, of course, they have an annual meeting down there in a big church down there on the south side of Springfield. And the group meets on a regular basis to determine what's going on and what's needed and fine-tune things.
Yeah, I think they have board meetings every month, just to keep organized, to make sure that if somebody's going on vacation, they got to be able to fill spots and whatnot. But for the most part, that core group, the ones that, every bus has got a bus captain, every bus has got a nurse, if we need that, if we need any care, and so we got to make sure that those groups are always maintained.
As you cover one point in the next, there are so many things that you say that are so obvious once you've said them, like to have a nurse on each bus. I wouldn't have thought, well, we better get some nurses for these buses. I mean, you haven't missed a ticket, have you? Well,
when your veterans show up, and you've got veterans that are on oxygen, and you got veterans that are in wheelchairs, and we got to make sure that the veterans all have their medication, and we make sure that the veterans have enough medication for the next day if something does happen and we're stuck there overnight. So there's a lot of I's to dot.
Oh, there are. Multitude.
648-5510. Somebody surely ought to have a question or a comment about our honor flight guest this morning, Mr. Aaron Liesman, who's giving up of his time. And he's a pretty busy guy. And we were glad to grab him just to get him off his. He had to move things around in his schedule.
Yeah. Now, the monies that you need, which are considerable, you don't get anything from the Department of Defense or anybody in the government, do you?
Oh no, these are all
private money.
All private money.
Oh, you've got a question coming here,
You have a
bud.
question? Have a caller, sir? Put your headset on, please, Aaron. Go right ahead, please, caller.
Yeah, hi, Bill. Doug Muck calling. How you doing?
Good morning. I have the volume turned up a little bit here, Jim. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, hi, Bill. This is Doug Muck calling.
Oh, thank you for calling, Doug. Good morning.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I have the utmost respect and admiration for all the people that take part in this program. And on my wish list would be interaction between these veterans and some of the younger people, aka millennials, who are on our college campuses nowadays, because I think it would be beneficial for them to share and hear of those experiences, and because it gives you great respect for the country and the people that helped build it.
Well, I appreciate that very much. As a matter of fact, I've been invited, had the courtesy of being asked to speak to some Lincoln College students. Mr. Keller's classes had me bore them to death on occasion, and I've appreciated it, and the kids are very attentive. So thank you very much for that, sir.
Well, if I can share one more experience,
yes,
when
sir.
I was in college, I took a movie class, a movie appreciation class, and one day they, without telling us, the teaching assistants played a movie called Night in Fog. It's the newsreels directed by General Eisenhower as the forces of the United States and the other allies moved into Dachau and Auschwitz, the concentration camps. And seeing those stark and gruesome images passes a lot of feeling and great respect for the efforts that were put forth by our armed forces on behalf of everybody in the world, not just this country, but the whole world.
I appreciate that very much. You mentioned Dachau. I've been there twice, once in the air, and secondly, many years later, touring there, and we went there. And that'll get your attention in a quick hurry, so thank you for mentioning that, sir.
All right. Well, thanks, Bill.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it, bud.
You bet.
Yep.
Oh, we appreciate that call. The Dachau experience was indeed something where that's another subject matter, and we're not going to put a downer on our program this morning by talking about what happened in Europe in those days. The veterans that you take, some of those veterans that I'm certain have experienced Dachau on the ground. Some of our, because people in uniform came from the four corners of this country, and it's inevitable that somebody from Logan County experienced a Dachau experience at one time. And that is D-A-C-H-A-U. It's not anything else. I don't want you to talk about C-O-W. So I don't make light of that. That's a terrible experience in history. The preparation takes place, of course, almost every day when you're planning ahead, but you alluded to the fact that you even thought about medications for those folks in case you had to stay over for an extra day due to weather or some other unforeseen circumstance. That's a little thing, but it's a terribly big thing for the individuals involved.
Yeah, there's a complete set of rules that just because people send in their application and they're waiting their turn, there's preparation involved that the volunteers take care of. They'll have a guardian training, okay, where Adam does a lot of guardian training in several different areas to explain to the guardians what their responsibilities are. They're just not along for a good ride and to push a wheelchair make sure these guys don't wander off somewhere. They have responsibilities and because we want them, if they are members of the family, the wives usually aren't going to be guardians. More than likely, because they probably
Age.
would wear out. If you think about if you got a 90-year-old World War II veteran and you got a 90-year-old wife, she probably can't push him around in a wheelchair for 6 or 7 hours. So that's not allowed. So hopefully we're getting down to the next generation that are going to be guardians. That's what my recommendation would be. That I was a guardian for a gentleman who I asked him, I said, because he had several sons. I said, well, why wasn't you? Oh, they all wanted to go. So I didn't know who to pick, and I didn't want to draw straws. So I just let you guys pick. So,
but that's so beautiful that they all wanted to go instead of they all told me that they were too busy.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but they were all there for the welcome home.
I bet they were.
The airport is very accommodating for us down there too.
Oh my, yes!
Airport.
Holy smokes! Everybody at the airport is amazing, amazing. I mean, the subway guy stays open, as long as it
somebody
takes.
needs one, yeah.
And
not
then
only that-
donates his profits on top of that.
Not only that, I was going to say that's very important. That place, he closes it at night because of the traffic and so forth, or lack of traffic at the airport. So he's obviously closing, but he opens up on that night. And as you say, not only does he open up and accommodate everybody, but the money goes to the honor flight.
Yeah, everybody participates. I mean, the airlines donate things, and there's just a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that everybody's on board. It's a big deal.
Any number of those veterans, I'm sure, volunteered for the service. But a lot of them, their friends and neighbors have selected them to go. And there they are, and they're doing the best they can. And the difference between the way the Vietnam veteran was treated, because we think we've got a lot of divisiveness going on now. That was divided then, wasn't it? And now we're honoring these people, and thank God somehow we saw the light.
Yes. And if you've been anywhere, restaurants, wherever you go, I know that everybody has noticed that these guys are a lot more proud of their service.
Yes.
They got their World War II hats on. They got their Vietnam shirts on. You got people walking up, shaking their hands. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
There's a lot more of that going on. I really enjoy that.
We made a 180 there, didn't we?
Right.
Now if we could
And I
talk
think
to the NFL.
The honor flight groups have had a big impact on that.
I'm sure that's correct. Interesting. Just 2 days ago, I was in a doctor's office, the clinic down in Springfield, and I'm proud to wear a cap that says Airman for Life, which my brother gave me. He has one. And he, too, is an airman for life. And this young fella says, "Oh, you were in the Air Corps. Thank you for your service, sir." He didn't say Air Corps. He called Air Force, of course. And I'm an old-timer. It's Air Corps.
Yeah.
One of our presidents called it corpse. I'll not mention his name, but he was the most recent ex-president.
Did he really say that?
Yes, he said corpse. Cluck.
Reading that prompter.
He's not from Lincoln, is he?
I hope not. Well, anyway, if people are interested in Honor Flight, they can go to the Honor Flight, the Land of Lincoln Honor Flight website. It's pretty easy to find. They can get applications for the veterans. They can get applications for guardians. They can find out about how donations can work.
Yes.
It's
pretty easy to find out a lot about Honor Flight if you get on the
I missed an opportunity to tell Counselor Muck, Lawyer Muck, that as he's advising his clients that are planning their estates, the attorneys would do well to mention the possibility concerning the honor flight, because a lot of people, there are really a number of people who don't have children, and they don't think in terms of the honor flight's not it's kind of low on the radar screen, whereas it should be higher and be more easily known about. So I was just kind of mention that to those folks who might be in that category out there, to think in terms of the honor flight as a legacy. Listen, Mrs. Busby, you were checking your notes.
Well, somewhere in the paperwork here, it said $5 is as welcome as $50.
Oh, absolutely.
$5 counts right up, doesn't it?
Joyce and I, when we got our buckets and we're handing out flags, there's more $1 bills in there than anything else, obviously.
Oh, sure.
So we're not particular about what people want to donate. We want to hand out flags, especially to the kids. I love giving flags to the kids.
Oh, and they love getting them, I'm sure.
Yeah, they get a big
and
kick
that's
out of it.
another experience that you need to experience. Watching these little rugrats there to welcome Grandpa or Daddy or somebody home. Usually it's not the daddies, because they're the age that they're there to welcome their grandfathers. And I'm sure in some cases it's great,
Oh, sure.
But it's fun to watch them. And sometimes their folks will get them all dolled up, kind of a patriotic theme of some sort, and they're proud about that. And I always make it a point to talk to them and have a little interchange with them.
Well, and we get all the groups come. I mean, you'll have a group of Boy Scouts come. We always have Fair Queens. There's Fair Queens at every one of the welcome homes.
Good.
And the veterans groups there's probably 3 or 4 different veterans groups that show up at every one, bringing flags. There's a group of gentlemen who, I don't know what you call them. They have period dress, so they're dressed in World War II garb. There's a young man who is pretty much at every one of them, and it's his hobby, and so he changes.
Oh.
He'll be in World War II, and then he'll be in Korean, and then he'll be in Vietnam, and he's got all the garb, and he'll change.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, for whatever he decides he's going to do, So, and they're all willing to talk to everybody. So, then people are taking pictures and people are visiting.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of.
Yeah, some people are pretty garrulous. I mean, you got to work away from them because they want to talk a lot.
Well, that's true. I have some group, some certain people who come and visit with me every honor flight, And sometimes I got to say, well, you need to stand over here because you're blocking my bucket. And I got to get a donation or two here while we visit,
Yeah, right.
Another part of our welcome home group is the Boy Scouts. They show up in uniform, and they take this doggone seriously too, and that's a good thing. And I always try to visit with 1 or 2 of them when I'm down there.
Well, that's where we have to go with our messages, our good messages, is to the young people, because they're going to be running the show before you know it. And if they have no patriotism or respect, we're in deep doo-doo.
The crowd's basic. One thing I want to mention too, Mr. Liesman, is that most often, not always, but you'll see our governor there visiting with people. He makes and it's his those who are in his security and so forth. That's a nightmare for them, because he wades into the crowd and talks to them, and their eyes are just constantly in a 360-degree swivel. But it's nice that he takes that time to do that. So we'll give him a plus there. He catches hell for about everything else, so we'll give him a good plus there.
Well, and he handles it right. He tries to get there early enough that he can visit with all the people.
Yeah.
And then when the veterans all show up, he pretty much disappears. He might say hi to a few of the veterans at the very beginning, but then he just kind of gets out of the way and lets them have their welcome home.
He feels that that's their day, not his.
That's correct.
And he's very good about meandering amongst the crowd, and he doesn't hurry himself through. He's very gracious about giving him his time there. So it's
Now,
a good thing.
For people who want to come down and greet them, say the 21st of August, they have to put on their patient hat, don't they? Because they don't know whether the planes are going to land at 10 o'clock or 11:30 or what. So they just have to be patient.
Well, yeah, people, if you're going to come, bring your lawn chairs.
Yeah,
all right?
there you
because
go.
the seating at the airport disappears in a hurry. So you got to bring your lawn chairs. And we have people that then bring whatever. I've seen people knitting, and I've seen people reading, and I've seen people like Bill on their computers and their iPads, and then there's everybody else who's just visiting. And a lot of times this is the veterans. It's been a month since he saw these guys, and so they're visiting about what's going on in their lives, because these same, just like Bill was saying, the same veterans come back month after month just to welcome everybody home.
Sure.
Well, Aaron Liesman, we appreciate your presence here this morning to talk about a very important thing that goes on in our country. Really is very important. We appreciate the fact that you and Joyce, you're just so regular down here. We appreciate Adam's long-time participation, and we thank him for getting you and his mother involved as volunteers. We always try to close with a quote that I think maybe this covers all veterans, and that is, of course, all gave some gave all. Thank you very much, Aaron Liesman.
My pleasure.